If you guys are into cars, you must have heard that Subaru just announced their all-new 2022 Subaru BRZ. Now, before I even start this video, I just want to preface this. I am a Subaru fanboy. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys don't know that I used to have a Subaru BRZ, Gen 1 of course. I sold that about a year ago and bought one of my all-time dream cars, this R32 GTR. All over the internet, I've just seen people bashing the new BRZ. It seems like everybody hates it, everybody says Subaru failed us, whether it be because they didn't add a turbocharger in there and it doesn't have enough power, or just because of the styling. Everybody says it looks like a Porsche from the front and an NSX in the back, which I can agree with. It does look a little weird right now, and I think I know the reason why it looks weird. I know this is a super hot take right now, but personally, I think that the new BRZ looks awesome. I think Subaru absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. So we're gonna sit here, we're gonna sit down, and I'm gonna try to give you guys a different look on the new Subaru BRZ. Just straight up looking at this car, I can understand why people say it's ugly. Honestly, I was kind of iffy on the front end. So today is November 19th, 2020. It is exactly one day after Subaru has just announced their all-new 2022 BRZ. I feel like anywhere I look, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, everybody kind of just hates this car. Everybody's either saying that Subaru let us down. There were rumors that this car was gonna come turbocharged, or at least with the turbocharged option, and a lot of people are saying that Subaru let us down because they didn't turbocharge the 86 and it still has less power, which I agree with. It definitely doesn't have enough power. They're marketing it as 228 horsepower, and I don't think that's enough. People are also saying this car is ugly, which I don't agree with. It is, however, very different. Just straight up looking at the car right now, it doesn't look like a BRZ from the front. I'm a BRZ fanboy, but I can be completely honest, the front end does look a little weird. I don't really know where Subaru was trying to go with this. It looks like the top of the front end looks very elegant and very classy, and then the bottom of it also looks kind of aggressive, like they went for an aggressive look but couldn't complete it. When you look at it like from right here, it looks like the old BRZ, but then like this just looks completely different. It looks very weird. The front end looks very weird on this car, but you gotta remember that this is a Subaru BRZ. Like, the BRZ has like crazy aftermarket parts. Like, you can find anything and everything for a Subaru BRZ. It's never hard. There's an abundance of parts. There's a ton of companies that makes parts for these cars, so finding a new front bumper for this car, something that looks a little bit better, is not gonna be hard. They're probably gonna come out with like 10 different variations of front bumpers within the first 6 months of this car being released. I don't think that this bumper is gonna be a huge issue. I think that there's gonna be a lot of aftermarket support. I feel like if you would just put a front lip on here, it would kind of make the weirdness of the front bumper go away just a little bit at least. Next up, let's move to the fenders. I am a sucker for vented fenders. If you guys remember my old beers, you guys remember for the longest time, I had either widened fenders and I had the Victory Function fenders. It was really cool. It was like a big open vent. The fact that it kind of looks like a Victory Function design, but they also added this little thing, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I feel like it would look cooler if this was just removed. I feel like we're definitely gonna see a lot of aftermarket parts that are gonna remove this fender. I feel like this is completely different than any other sports car that's out right now. Even the new 400Z and the Supra, they have kind of normal fenders. I mean, I know they look very cool, like they look awesome, they're awesome looking cars, but the fenders that are on here are very unique. Moving on to the side skirts, I love how Subaru finally made a side skirt that's like removable. But before, the rocker panel was just connected to the quarter panel, and that kind of made it hard to get aftermarket side skirts, but now this is kind of like the same design as the 350Z. The amount of options there's gonna be for aftermarket side skirts is gonna be insane, because you literally just clip these off and then clip new ones on. For the guys that like OEM plus cars, I feel like this is gonna be perfect, because you can replace the side skirt and it's gonna look almost OEM because it'll fit with the car, but it's not gonna look like you just added something onto the car. It's gonna give it a little flair. A lot of people won't be able to notice that as aftermarket, but it is gonna have a little flair to it that's gonna kind of distinguish it from other BRZs. So I'm looking at this car differently than a lot of other people are. Now, a lot of people I've noticed are just looking at the car as it is in its stock form and just saying that it didn't live up to their expectations, and I feel like that's a little unfair. You can't really do that, because when you look at the 2013 BRZ when it first came out, when it was completely stock, it's not like everybody fell in love with it as soon as it came out in its stock form. After it came out, everybody made it their own. There were so many different things you could do with the car, and that's what people fell in love with, and people fell in love with the fact that it was so modifiable, and when you modified it, it genuinely looked good. Like, the BRZ was a very good looking car. I feel like you kind of have to think about what you can modify on the car and how you can make it your own. I can tell you for a fact that there's gonna be so many aftermarket front bumpers for this car because it's so damn ugly and it looks weird and it's confusing to look at. There's gonna be a lot of side skirts that sit lower for stancy boys. There's gonna be side skirts that are super aggressive for the track boys. Now, I've seen a lot of people don't like the rear end of this car, and I don't really understand how you could not like it. The side profile of this car looks insane. Granted, it doesn't look like the Gen 1 BRZ. Usually when you go from Gen 1 to Gen 2 to Gen 3, they kind of carry on like the same look, but this looks completely different. I guess that's why it's also getting a lot of backlash, because people don't like change. People like what they're comfortable with. After this car is out for about a year or 2 years, people are gonna start getting comfortable with this car, and then it's not gonna be so much of a change, and then people are gonna start liking it. Right now, it's just something completely different, and a lot of people haven't been able to actually absorb it. Majority of us haven't even seen this thing in person, so once we see this thing in person, I think it's gonna change. Honestly, the same thing happened with the 2020 Supra. When the 2020 Supra first came out, there was a lot of backlash because it looked completely different and it was weird, but now when you see a 2020 Supra in person, everybody's breaking their freaking necks. I mean, Toyota knows that it's gonna take time for people to start accepting this car and liking this car. Getting back to the side profile of this car, this thing is just killer, man. I really like how they made this curve on the quarter panel super aggressive. It wasn't this aggressive from the old BRZ, if I remember correctly, but it's super aggressive over here. The front fenders, once again, super aggressive. Just the little details like the fenders aggressiveness goes into the door. I think that's really cool. Subaru could have easily just cheaped out and used the Gen 1 BRZ doors, but they added a little bit more of a flair to it, and I think that's cool. It's not that, it shows that they're not just cheaping out on the car, it shows that they're going out of their way to actually make the car look good and make it look different. The rear end of this car is completely different. This little mudguard thing, I really hope that this is an option. I hope that this is removable, because if I'm being straight up honest, like I know it has a purpose, but it just looks kind of ugly. Like, there's no other way to put it. Just, it looks weird. The rear is completely different from normal Subaru fashion. Usually, they had the license plates on the trunk. Now they have the license plate on the bumper. Oh, that does it for me, boys. Now I'm getting excited, boys. I love the rear end of this car. The rear end of this car is completely different. It's completely changed. I know a lot of people don't like it. Once again, guys, just give me a second to explain like what I think the aftermarket possibilities for this car are gonna do for the rear end. I think it's gonna be insane. Stock wise, I love the rear end, but I think that it's gonna look even cooler once there's gonna be a lot of aftermarket options. I think it's really cool how Subaru kept their OG diffuser and their OG like reverse light thing going. It looks pretty cool. I was never the biggest fan. I mean, if you guys remember, I completely cut this off. Now that the rear bumper is shaped like this, I don't know if you'd be able to cut the stock diffuser off. I think there's gonna be a lot of companies making aftermarket diffusers for this car, because the diffuser does look kind of plain. It's just flat. It never really looked that good on the Gen 1 BRZ, so I doubt it's gonna look that great on the Gen 2 BRZ. It's giving me a little bit of the Honda Accord vibes from the back with these taillights over here. It'd be really funny if somebody took off the Subaru badge, put a Honda badge, and wrote Honda Accord on it. This ducktail is kind of dope. Even though it gives me Honda Accord vibes, I do love these new taillights. And you guys see this black bar over here? So this isn't a light right now, but I think that there's gonna be a lot of aftermarket options that are gonna replace this black bar and make it an actual light. So we'll have to wait and see for that, I guess. The shark fin up here looks weird. I don't know why. In my opinion, the way that this trunk sits looks a lot nicer than the Gen 1 BRZ's trunk and how it sat. The Gen 1's BRZ's trunk was freaking huge. This trunk is a lot smaller. It makes the car look a little bit more sporty, and I think that when you put a carbon fiber trunk on this car, it's gonna look awesome because the carbon fiber isn't taking up like half the rear end. I love carbon fiber trunks. I'm already thinking, boys, like the wing options for this car are gonna be insane. There's gonna be some big wangs on this car. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I think that they're gonna look cool. Now, chassis mounted wings, however, I think that there's not gonna be that many chassis mounted wings because the license plate is where exactly the chassis mounts are supposed to go. I think that there's gonna be a lot of trunk mounted wings, and I think that there's gonna be a lot of ducktail extenders. You can see that this comes stock with like a ducktail looking thing, but I think that there's gonna be a lot of like bigger ducktails. Once again, love the curves on the quarter panel. I love how they transfer onto the front bumper. This car is just filled with curves, and I think that looks very cool. Now, before we jump into one of our favorite topics, performance, let's talk about the interior real quick. The interior of the BRZ is for like the cheapest rear wheel drive sports car. The interior of this thing got a huge upgrade. If you guys have never sat in the Gen 1 seats, they kept you in. The bolsterings were nice. They kept you in place around the turns. They were super comfortable. They were very nice seats. I mean, that's all you could really say. They were some pretty nice seats. Now, these seats look even comfier. These seats look 10 times thicker. They look like the bolstering is awesome. They do look like they weigh 100 pounds each. It looks like each seat itself is like 100 pounds, which is insane because these seats look gigantic. But Besides these seats looking absolutely enormous, these seats look very comfortable and they look like the bolstering is really nice and it's gonna keep you in around the turn. Looking at the rest of the interior, just straight up looking at the door, it's not so plain looking. The Gen 1 BRZ was very plain because it was more of a driver friendly car, but it didn't give you like a nice quality feel to the interior, if you guys know what I mean. No BRZ came with a freaking armrest in the center console. It was always annoying. They finally put kind of an armrest looking thing there, which is awesome. The center console looks way nicer. The OG BRZ was super plain. I'm sure it's just gonna feel like cheap Subaru plastic like it always does, but looking at it, it looks very nice. The interior you're gonna kind of have to feel out because, like I said, Subaru does use a lot of cheap plastic, but Subaru does know how to make nice interiors. Like, if you look at this Evo, the Evo's awesome, but the interior on Evos is absolute crap. I feel like Subaru always makes better interiors. Now jumping on to performance, this part let a lot of us down because there were so many rumors going around that Subaru was gonna have a turbocharged option. I'm not gonna lie, I was really looking forward to that. I wanted a turbocharged option. My biggest gripe with my old BRZ was that it was so freaking slow. It's a very slow car. Now, what Subaru did is that they added an extra 20-ish horsepower. It sucks that Subaru didn't at least throw in an option for a turbocharged model. I think the reason why they did that is so that the WRX sales don't go down. I think a lot of people get the WRX over the BRZ because it's an affordable sports car, but it's also fast. If they turbocharge the BRZ, I feel like they would lose a good chunk of their WRX market. I guess I kind of get it. I do see where Subaru let us down with the performance aspect of it, but I do think that they did give us a little bit more power. Let's be grateful for the little power they gave us. It kind of sucks because if they finally gave us this car turbocharged, I feel like so many people would just love this car because there would be so many more things you can do with it. But it being NA, there's only so much you can do with it. It being a Subaru BRZ though, I assure you, the amount of aftermarket turbo kits that there's gonna be for this car and supercharger kits is gonna be insane. Is it gonna be a little bit more pricey? Yes, but you can also look at it in a different angle and think that if the car came boosted, they would have to up the price just a little bit. So maybe you're paying that extra price that you would have paid for the car. Instead now it's not coming OEM, but you have to get it done, but you're still paying about the same price. I mean, it's just a different way of looking at it. They officially just released the BRZ yesterday. For the past month, I've been already saying that people are gonna hate it right away. Once there's gonna be wide body kits coming out for it, that people are gonna absolutely love it. Now there's already one fan rendering going around. I'm gonna put up on the screen. It's not an official kit for the car, but it's just a fan rendering, and it's crazy to see the comments under there. People are absolutely loving it. Like, people are just completely changing their mind. All over my Instagram, people were saying that the BRZ was ugly, and then a few hours later, they saw this fan rendering of a wide body kit, and they were like, yep, changed my mind. I don't hate it anymore. I love it. This thing looks freaking fire. And that's just one fan rendering. I don't think they're gonna start selling this car for about another year, so we have a year of people to make wide body kits for this car, for people to make, for companies to make aftermarket parts for this car. There's gonna be a ton of things coming for this car, and I think that this car is gonna make a huge impact in the car market. 2022 is gonna be a big year for cars. We already have the Supra, but we're gonna have the 400Z, and then we're gonna have the BRZ. I think for everybody that says they hate the BRZ, I think you just have to wait on it a little bit. I think you just wait it out, just see that aftermarket support that's gonna come for the car, and I assure you, you're not gonna hate it anymore. If you still don't like it, you don't like it, but I think that it's gonna grow on a lot of people. I think it's gonna grow on the majority of people. You guys gotta remember that Toyota builds some pretty cool cars. As of right now, I absolutely love the BRZ. The fan rendering of the new wide body kit just blew me away. Like, I absolutely loved it. There is a possibility that I will sell my R32 Skyline GTR for the new BRZ. I want to know what you guys think about the new BRZ. Do you guys like it? Do you guys not like it? Do you guys think it's worth the money? Do you think Subaru let us down with the performance aspect? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys don't follow me on TikTok, go ahead and follow me on TikTok. But I made a TikTok the other day, and the comments were just filled with just hate on the new BRZ. It seemed like everybody just hated the new BRZ for some reason, but I think that was really interesting. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.